Hello and welcome to GMF Talk with me, Liz Shoo. Today we are going to take a look at the environment. The theme of this year's Global Media Forum is Shaping Tomorrow Now. And one way we shape our future is by how we deal with planet Earth. So today I'm very excited to have a guest who is monitoring how we are taking care of the planet. Gustavo Faleiros is joining me from Brazil. He is a geojournalist and also the founder of Info Amazonia, which is a digital news platform that provides information using satellite images and publicly available data to show activities happening in the Amazon rainforest. Gustavo, welcome to the program.
Hi, Liz. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much for joining us. So you are a geojournalist. I know about environmental journalism. I know about climate journalism. What is geojournalism exactly?
Well, we use the term geojournalism for defining the journalist that is mostly about the environment, but that take into account the kind of the place as a main character. I think it's a way to give to stress the importance and the centrality of the territory, or, well, after all, the environment. So if we treat like ecosystems as characters, if you like, we can show how fast they're changing, what are the problems that are making them degrade, and things like this. So the way you tell the story of a place is with the geographical science. Journalism, with this flow of data, the pulse of the environment, you are able to tell the story of the place, of the territory, of the environment in a much better way, a much more complete way, giving the character, the environment, the centrality it deserves. That's the idea behind geojournalism.
And you have been collecting data from the Amazon rainforest for about 10 years now. What trends are you seeing?
Well, the Amazon, unfortunately, is still going in a bad way, and it's being degraded over these years, either by deforestation, which is really clear the land, take all the vegetal coverage, all the trees, or actually via other forms of degradation, which is, illegal mining, sometimes opening scars in the forest, which has grown a lot, this kind of activity, or forest fires, natural, which are very little, and intentional forest fires. So what we are seeing, a combination of human threats, human pressures over the Amazon, already being mixed with climate effects and creating a feedback loop. So most recent science, actually this week we had a science piece, an article, showing that this feedback loop system exists, which means that once you start, more you destroy the Amazon, more you're feeding the climate feedback, and that is creating this vicious cycle that might result in a much poorer environment. And nowadays the Amazon is the one who is the most biodiverse, the more biodiversity in the whole planet.
Now, you are making all this data available. Anybody who wants to access it can do so. But are decision makers really taking note and then taking action based on what they are seeing? Or is the data just out there and it's not having any impact in the real world?
Well, making the data available and how the data was interpreted, making a kind of doing an open source journalism, if you like we have open source articles and software. If you do open source journalism, showing how you interpret data, you do make a lot of impact. But it's not only about making the data available and visible, which was maybe the initial pull and drive of the geojournalist, which was like by visualizing and having access to all this data, you understand how bad it is. What really makes change and makes decision makers pay attention, it's when you take huge amounts of data and really understand something that is being very troublesome, or you investigate some corruption behind this data, and you show a trend that is actually within a much larger data set, for example, or data repository. And when you do this, then decision makers pay attention.
So for those of us who are not specialized in geojournalism or environmental journalism, we also sometimes have to report about the environment. What are the things that irritate you when you see or read some news reports? And what tips do you have for us, regular journalists, to get better at reporting on these issues?
No, I think it's like one of those things, like all of us, that's why the environment is so important right now. It's, in my opinion, the issue that unites all of us. So anyone doing an environmental report can be really reasonable if it's well intended, and say like, well, there's no good things to say about a polluted river, or not being able to go to the beach, or having people living in the middle of areas of disposals and things like this. But what I do think sometimes is that we need more journalists knowing the ground and doing environmental reporting, for not creating exotic pictures of the natural places. That's what irritates me. Like if someone just gets into a forest, it's like, oh my God, I'll be eaten, or the lion's gonna get me. Something in these lines of trying to bring fear when talking about nature, or that applies for climate change as well. Like when you're saying like, oh, Mother Nature is destroying us, or something like that is beyond the human causes of our relation with nature. I think it is irritating to start, and I think it's not precise, because there's not such a thing as an exotic place. There are places that are very conserved, and they need to be like that. But I don't like that happens a lot on tropical forests, when you have people visiting areas of forest and trying to picture that as a very adventurous thing.
And finally, I'd like to know, because of the work that you do, you rely on information that is out there, on data that is publicly available. So if other people want to join forces with you or create similar projects in their own countries, what are the places where they can find this type of data? Because it's also a matter of costs, and how much time do I really invest to get the information that I need?
Yeah, this is a good question. I think there is things that everyone can do in terms of like keep looking at the information that is coming out on trustful sources, the open data kind of thing that is available. But I also get from your question how a young journalist or someone can engage in such a complex project, like an investigative project, transnational investigations, or collaborative projects. There's many ways. I think networks are popping out everywhere, like networks to investigate health issues, networks to investigate environmental issues. So I give you this example of the network that I'm now coordinating, the Rainforest Investigations Network. The way it works, like you can apply for a project, like having an idea about an investigation, I think is a first step for starting finding partners, like pitching this for organizations like the Pulitzer Center, where I'm working, that fund things, or outlets like DW and others that have been funding, special feature projects, are a very good start. And then from being part of this kind of network, we'll know other issues in other countries, or people that can collaborate on specific issues that you are not so good at, and so on. I think collaboration is really the start for getting engaged with this very high quality or in-depth journalists.
Gustavo Faleiros, thank you very much for those insights and tips. My takeaway is that there needs to be cooperation, networking, collaboration, and these are things we have to keep in mind, especially journalists who are out there who want to follow in your footsteps. Thank you very much for giving us your time, and thank you, our viewer, for being part of this GMF Talk. Remember to subscribe to the Global Media Forum to not miss any of our content in future.